For every Mustang, Corvette, or Charger that made history, there's a graveyard of machines that never got their moment. Cars banned by regulators, killed by their own flaws, or buried by the very companies that built them. Some were too powerful for their own good, others so bizarrely engineered they confused drivers more than they impressed them. These aren't just forgotten cars, they're cautionary tales, stories of ambition running headfirst into reality. So, in this video, we'll dig up 10 American cars that were scrapped, silenced, or simply too dangerous to survive. 10. 1966 AMC Marlin 343 Typhoon Project. AMC was the scrappy underdog of Detroit, and in 1966, they tried swinging at the big boys with the Marlin 343 Typhoon Project. The idea was simple: take the Marlin, a comfortable cruiser, and bolt in AMC's new 343 cubic inch V8. Suddenly, the car had muscle. But there was one glaring problem: the chassis and drivetrain weren't ready for that much power. Suspension groaned, handling became a nightmare, and reliability tanked. Even AMC executives lost faith, worried about costs and brand confusion. What could have been AMC's breakout muscle machine ended up as a corporate ghost, quietly shelved before it embarrassed itself on the streets. The Typhoon is remembered less as a missed chance at greatness and more as a cautionary tale about what happens when you build a car's biceps but forget about its backbone. 9. 1959 Pontiac Catalina Tri-Power Wagon. The late 50s were about chrome, tail fins, and horsepower, so Pontiac asked, why not throw all that into a family station wagon? The result was the 1959 Pontiac Catalina Tri-Power Wagon, a grocery getter stuffed with a 389 V8 and 3 carburetors. It churned out 320 horsepower, making family errands feel like drag races. Unfortunately, Pontiac forgot an important detail: brakes. The wagon still ran basic drum brakes, which buckled under the extra speed, especially with kids, luggage, or groceries loaded inside. And that complex triple carb setup? Most mechanics had no clue how to tune it, turning maintenance into a nightmare. Pontiac built it because they could, but it was less a family car and more suburban hazard. Today, it's remembered as the station wagon that scared dads, mothers, and mechanics, a powerful idea with no safety net. 8. 1971 Chevrolet Chevelle 454 Police Unit. Chevy thought it had cracked the code to unstoppable law enforcement in 1971. They dropped the monstrous LS 454 V8 into a Chevelle and handed it to police departments. On paper, it looked like a dream. 360 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque meant no criminal could outrun it. But in reality, the Chevelle police car was dangerous for the cops. The raw power chewed through brakes, transmissions, and suspension parts, forcing departments into constant, costly repairs. Handling was so poor that pursuit training sometimes turned into accidents, with cars losing control at high speeds. The car wasn't built for long shifts or city patrols. It was built to win drag races. Within a short time, police forces abandoned it, opting for balanced durability over brute strength. The Chevelle 454 police car is remembered as an experiment in overkill, proving even cops don't need too much car. 7. 1955 Hudson Hornet V8 NASCAR prototype. The Hudson Hornet was already a NASCAR legend in the early 50s thanks to its low center of gravity and agile handling. But by 1955, rivals were gaining horsepower, so Hudson engineers decided to stuff a Packard V8 under the hood to keep their dominance alive. On paper, it was brilliant, championship potential in a proven chassis. But there was one giant problem: NASCAR's homologation rules. To compete, Hudson needed to build a street version of the car in large enough numbers, something their budget couldn't handle. With no money for mass production, the dream ended before the car even hit the track. The Hornet V8 NASCAR prototype became the ultimate what-if of racing, a machine that could have changed NASCAR history but never got the chance. It remains a ghost of American racing ambition, killed not by speed, but by paperwork. 6. 1962 Dodge Custom 880 413 Cross Ram. The 1962 Dodge Custom 880 with its 413 Cross Ram engine looked like a mad scientist's experiment under the hood. Engineers gave it sweeping, curved intake runners that stretched across the engine bay, an impressive design that screamed space-age performance. Trouble was, it didn't actually work well. The massive V8 barely fit, requiring awkward modifications just to squeeze it in. Heat built up around the intake system, leading to vapor lock issues, while throttle response was inconsistent at best. In short, it was more eye candy than functional engineering. Dodge promised a performance revolution, but instead delivered a finicky, overheating mess that frustrated drivers and mechanics. The Cross Ram became a symbol of early 60s excess when style trumped substance, and cars were judged more by their futuristic looks than their real-world drivability. 5. 1964. Lincoln Continental Coupe 430 Dual Quad. The Lincoln Continental was the definition of classy cruising in the 60s. Smooth lines, plush interiors, and quiet refinement. But then came the 1964 Coupe with a 430 cubic inch V8 topped by dual 4-barrel carburetors. Suddenly, the gentleman's car had a split personality, refined luxury on the outside, snarling muscle under the hood. The problem? It didn't know what it wanted to be. The suspension and brakes were tuned for calm boulevard gliding, not the extra surge of power. Drivers complained it felt unbalanced. Too loud and aggressive for a luxury car, but too heavy and soft for a performance machine. The result was a vehicle that confused customers and struggled to find a market. The 430 Dual Quad Continental stands as proof that you can't just slap muscle car power into a luxury platform without upsetting the entire formula. 4. 1965 Chrysler 300L Ramcharger package. Chrysler thought it was being clever with the 1965 300L Ramcharger package, an executive luxury car that could also tear up the quarter mile. By day, it looked the part of a business sedan. By night, the optional 426 Max Wedge engine turned it into a tire-smoking monster. On paper, it was a two-in-one deal. In reality, it pleased no one. Traditional luxury buyers wanted smooth refinement, not a noisy, high-maintenance drag motor under the hood. Muscle car enthusiasts, meanwhile, thought it was overpriced and too bulky. Sales flopped, and Chrysler quietly moved on. Today, the 300-liter Ramcharger is remembered less as a trailblazer and more as a case study in identity crisis. Was it a luxury sedan or a muscle car? Chrysler never figured it out, and customers didn't want to pay to find out either. 3. 1972 Dodge Demon 446-pack project. The Dodge Demon was meant to be a fun, affordable, compact muscle car, but Dodge engineers went off the rails when they crammed the enormous 440 cubic inch V8 with a 6-pack carburetor setup into its tiny frame. The result? A car that was dangerously unbalanced. Nearly 60% of the car's weight sat over the front wheels, turning every corner into a fight with understeer. The handling was so bad that spirited driving became downright unsafe. Only a handful of prototypes were ever built before Dodge scrapped the idea. While the Demon 440 had brag-worthy power, it was basically undrivable on real roads. It serves as a reminder that physics doesn't care about marketing hype. You can bolt a huge engine into a small car, but that doesn't mean it'll perform well. Sometimes, more power just means more problems. 2. 257 Nash Ambassador V8 twin-stick. The 1957 Nash Ambassador looked solid enough, packing a Packard-sourced 352 cubic inch V8 with plenty of grunt. But then Nash engineers decided to reinvent the wheel, or in this case, the transmission. They gave it a bizarre twin-stick setup, requiring drivers to juggle 2 shift patterns at once. Sounds futuristic, right? In reality, it was a mechanical headache. Linkages wore out quickly, shifting was awkward and confusing, and even experienced drivers found themselves stalling or grinding gears. Road testers at the time basically laughed it off, saying it turned simple driving into a circus act. Unsurprisingly, customers weren't lining up for complexity nobody asked for. Today, surviving twin-stick Ambassadors mostly sit in private collections, admired for their rarity but rarely driven. It's a car remembered more for overthinking the basics than for any real achievement. Sometimes simpler really is better. 1. 1970 Ford Torino Talladega Super Cobra Jet. Imagine owning a NASCAR car with license plates. That's essentially what Ford built with the 1970 Torino Talladega Super Cobra Jet. Under the hood was a 429 cubic inch V8 officially rated at 375 horsepower, though insiders say it made much more. With its aerodynamic nose and track-tuned suspension, the car was a monster at high speeds. But here's the problem. Nobody was taking the kids to school at Daytona. On regular streets, the suspension felt punishing, the nose scraped on curbs, and insurance companies slapped sky-high premiums on it. For most buyers, it was way too much car. The Talladega became infamous as the car that punished you for trying to daily drive a race car. Though it had its fans, Ford quietly let it fade into obscurity. It's remembered now as one of the boldest but least practical muscle machines to ever leave Detroit. So, what do you think? Were these cars unfairly buried? Or did they deserve to vanish into Detroit's memory hole? If you could bring one of these banned beasts back to life, which would it be? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more stories the automakers would rather keep hidden. Until next time, thanks for watching.